we should be ready to start if I have 11 o'clock. I think everyone, good morning everyone. My name's Andrew Notter. I'm the Vice Chair of the British Chamber of Commerce Luxembourg, and I'm delighted to welcome you all this morning to our week-long leadership forum on Be Here, Be Dragons. So an exciting title and exciting speakers. All of this week, we have one speaker for 1 hour every day this week. And I have the pleasure to listen to Boris Diekmann this morning, who I'm very excited to hear all about the energy around the humans and how human performance is a function of human energy. So that's going to be really interesting to understand, especially on a Tuesday morning when the weather's not looking so good and you're dialing in for another Zoom meeting, how important that is, and especially in the COVID period now when the future is very uncertain. And how do we manage and navigate leadership in times of crisis? So very excited to hear from Boris this morning. And do remember, we have a speaker every day this week, so please do join. There's going to be different topics about leadership and how we manage in uncharted territory. So please do join us for every day this week. I will say thank you to our sponsors this morning as well, Lux Dates and Autonomous. Thank you once again for sponsoring us. And without further ado, I'll pass you over to Keith Amos, who's going to be moderating the event this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And I'm glad that you got the message about wearing the same jacket and tie. That always helps. Lovely to see so many friendly faces here this morning. And I'm really excited as well to hear what Boris has to say. Boris, I'm pleased to say, is also a friend of mine, as well as being a guest here for the British Chamber event today. And the only thing he's asked me to say is that could you kindly stay away from the comments because he's got such a lot of good stuff to say that it might be distracting if little things are popping up now and again. So who is Boris Diekmann? Well, Boris is the perfect man to talk to us today and to lead us through the kind of leadership challenges that are being faced. His experience spans from consultancy and training and guidance and helping to implement major leadership programs in companies such as Rolls Royce, Siemens, and indeed the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, where I first met Boris many years ago. And his recent book, which I have a copy of here, I just have to quickly give a plug, even if the writing is round the wrong way. I'm sure he'll be mentioning a little bit about that. I'm not going to waste any more of your time because we really want to hear from Boris. So at this point, human effectiveness is ultimately a function of human energy, Boris, I understand. Take it away.
All right. So is that the moment when I'm supposed to start sharing the screen? Okay, hold on. Hold on. I need to stop doing this because I'm on the... This is how it starts, you see? I should have done something differently. Keith, give me 1 second. I need to start at the first slide. Is that correct?
First slide normally, Boris. That's the kind of way we do it normally, but
yeah, that's how we usually do it. To improvements. All right. There you go. All right. Can you all see this? Thumbs up. Yeah. So as long as you're on mute, by the way, ways of showing support, or yeah, you can do it this way, or you can do it this way. It all works as long as it's visual. So I'll be very, very brief on introductions. Thank you so much for having me here, for allowing me to have this conversation with everyone on something that is super dear to me. I'll be very brief on myself because what happened between that time when I looked like this and how I look now is very hard to do in a few minutes, and it's probably the same for everyone here. But probably the only thing I feel like sharing right now is I'm not American. I just have this wannabe US accent. I actually spent, I think, 8 years in the UK. Both my children are born there. And right now I'm calling you from a little tiny village close to Nuremberg, south of Germany, where we live. Yeah, super, super excited to do this. There will be, let me say this up front, there will be, I'm going to share together with you. This is going to be very interactive. So don't fall asleep right now. I've reserved time for that later. There will be time for you to be in triads and relate what we're talking about to your real life and your real leadership in this morning. And then will be time in a larger group to share some of this. So it will be quite interactive. we're going to use the chat, but please refrain from just putting question in there right now. If one thing you could do is when thoughts come, just jot them on a piece of paper so you can bring them in later. It's just distracting a little bit. Does that work for everybody? Thumbs up, fantastic. So a little bit of technology, just to let you know, some of you might be super used to Zoom, some not. It would be great to see you. Honestly, I would treat this as if we were in a real room. It's just a little bit flatter. So all you need to do is on your screens at the bottom, you see a thing called Start Video. That's what you click on. And if you go in the top right-hand corner, you'll find an icon that looks a little bit like that. And if you click on Gallery View at any moment in time, you can see everybody or the large majority. You can use the chat a little bit later. And we're only going to record this first part of the session. So anything you'll share later in the triads and our conversation, we're not going to record that so that you feel maybe a little bit more at ease and just have a conversation. So that's it for technology. What's the first thing I wanted to share? So I thought you already know what this is about. It's about energy, right? And we're going to have, fundamentally, we're going to have a 50-minute meeting right now. You're going to have a couple of other meetings today. Some of you probably had some meetings today. We're all coming, we're 30, 40 people or so coming to this place from different strands. Some brought their kids to school. Some already had to take some difficult decisions to make. Some maybe already had a dispute with their children or their spouse. So let's take a little moment to actually arrive here and bring all of who we are to this moment, to this meeting. And we're going to do something that is so simple that you're either going to drop off the call immediately or maybe bring your family afterwards. So all I'd like you to do, and I'm going to close my eyes for a moment just so that you have a little bit of privacy. All I'd like you to do is 3 very simple things, and you might want to practice that throughout the day or the rest of your life. All I'd like you to do for now is simply notice your breath. So all I'd like you to do, you can keep your eyes closed or have them open. Relax, it's just 50 people watching you. Super easy. All I'd like you to do is notice your breathing. Because before I asked you to do so, you were not conscious that you're breathing. You were just doing it. Step 1. Step 2. It's simply like you to take 3 or 4 deep breaths, a little bit deeper and a little bit slower than what you usually do. And simply enjoy that. It might be your last chance today to have a little bit of stillness. That's about the duration for 3 breaths. And the third thing I'd like you to do is very simply think about and bring to your attention, what is your highest hope for the remaining 50 minutes of this call? What is your highest hope? And what is your highest intention? What do you want to bring? Could be curiosity, an open heart, a question, a point of view. And that's it. Just check in with yourself. You may want to take another, when you have your next board meeting or something else coming up, that was 1.5 or 2 minutes. Just see if it helps you to bring all of your energy into that moment, because it's too precious to waste a little bit of it. So we fundamentally have already talked about or experienced everything that energy is about. It's about awareness, attention, and intention, because energy goes where thought goes. Whatever we do, energy goes where thought goes. Fantastic. All right. So let's make this a little bit more scientific. I hope you're all there in full attention. So here's what I'd like you to do, and that's where you have to use the chat. Could you please simply let me know how many red dots you see? That's all I want to know. Can you just put this into your chat? How many red dots do you see? This is an important question. Some people put in 5. What about the other 50? 5, 5. Some people 4. That's interesting. Nobody's 6 yet. All right. Some another 5. Well, there's another 4. All right. So for those who have 4, you might want to do a little recount. No, but no 6s so far. That's also really fantastic. So well done. It is 5 dots. The question I have to the other is, what else did you see? Just ask yourself, what else did I see? A lot of fingers, indeed. A lot of fingers. How many? Who? And just ask yourself right now, who's wondering, what on earth is he talking about? And who said, I wondered, there was something, but I'm not quite sure about it. So here's what I'd like you to do. Look at it again. And I'd just like you to count the number of fingers. And some of you might notice that it's actually 12 in total. So why am I mentioning this? Because I think this is fundamental for energy. We only see the things we pay attention to. So if I had asked you right from the start, right, how many fingers do you see? Just ask yourself, do you think you would have seen the fingers immediately? In my experience of the last 20 years, yes, immediately. And the same is true with something as invisible as energy. We only notice it when we pay attention to it. You notice your breath as soon as you pay attention to it. And in my view, just to put out an hypothesis here, I don't think COVID has changed anything. It hasn't changed anything fundamental, essential. But what it has changed, it has changed our awareness. It has changed our awareness of our fundamental human needs. It has changed our awareness of what we had to fuel them, like connecting in the office. And it has also made us more aware of the things that we might have neglected right here, right now, in the last weeks. Many people I speak to are thinking, you know what, I never noticed that. I was never so conscious just how much I value connecting with people. Some clients I have start connecting on the calls and say, hey, how are you feeling? And they make it a round table. And it's not a meeting starter. It's the real question. It's really important. So I think it has actually, in many, many ways, COVID is a little bit like a barrier lake, right? And the water in the barrier lake is our busyness with what we were used to. COVID empties the lake. And what it helps is to see the shape of the bottom of the lake, what I call human needs or sources of energy. And one day it will fill again. But it's a wonderful opportunity to become conscious because the surface of the lake will still remain the same, if that makes sense. So another way of looking at that is, we're not going to talk about anything new today. I just want to kind of take a bit of time for us to pause and just remind ourselves. And to make this a little bit more scientific, there's a wonderful quote, I think, that relates to that, right? It's not what matters, but it's what you see. But to make this a little bit more scientific, you notice your awareness typically later in hindsight, right? Here are just some examples of that. Nowadays, it will probably look a little bit more like that. These are real adverts from the 60s, by the way. When I saw it, I thought, they must be kidding me. But this is how awareness works. You know, when we're swimming in it, we don't notice it. And energy is something that we sometimes just don't notice. So I'd like you to use the chat room again. We could also talk, but with 50 people, it's a little bit challenging. And I have a very serious question for you. What is love? So take your keyboards out, and I'd like you to, I don't know if anybody has ever been in love. Otherwise, there's still time. So just like kindness. Yes, thank you, Diana. What else? What deepest care? Yes. What else? Nobody has said expensive yet. What else is love? Get it out there. Comfort. The ultimate human challenge. Ephemeral. Moments of positive connection. Feeling energized. Baby, don't hurt me. It's a commitment. Yes. What else? Acceptance. Yes. Bring it out there. I hope we have a balance of gentlemen and ladies here. Yeah, compromise, indeed. What happiness. Wow. Unconditional. Now we're getting to something. Fantastic. So for those of you who haven't responded, I thought we need a service. Indeed. Trap. we have time after the call, if you like, for personal conversation. So in any case, I thought you can't rely on people having, you know, an answer. So I thought I bring an answer to make sure that this call is really important, precious, and you get some. This is actually the real definition of love. And it comes from, it's actually out of a book from Bill Bryson, but it comes from the Conference of Sociologists. So here it is. Let me read it out for you. It is actually a cognitive affective state characterized by intrusive, obsessive fantasizing concerning reciprocity of amour and feeling by the object of the amorance. That is it. Now you know. So here's what I'd love you to do just for a moment. If you compare that with your answers that are in the chat, a connection, service, unconditional happiness, just ask yourself what's missing. What's the difference between what you intuitively answered from your life experience and that little definition here? Let's see what comes up in the chat. What's the difference? What is missing? Let me see if I can actually read this here. Emotion, indeed. The actual thing is missing, right? Emotion is missing. And so as we go into this conversation and we go a little bit deeper, here's what I'd like you to do, or just kind of keep in mind, make no mistake, when we talk about energy, we're talking about a feeling. That's what it is. Culture in organizations is a feeling, and you cannot not feel, right? The question is not whether it is okay or helpful to give each other feedback. There are dozens of articles around. The question is, does it feel safe enough to do so? The question is it helpful to have an open dialogue in our meetings? Of course it is helpful, but does it feel safe enough? The question is not, you know, if people want to work. The question, do they feel inspired enough? So that's why I want to talk a little bit about feelings. Now, I don't know if you can actually, Keith, I might have missed this. Let me pause this here and share screen again, because I need to put on the computer sound, because I want to show you something else. Oh no, that was the wrong thing. Forgive me. I've done a little mistake here, but no worries, it's coming. There you go. All right. So I want to do a little scientific experiment with everyone. I hope you're ready for that. And I hope that you have your speakers on, probably because you can hear me. So I'd just like you to watch this. And keep giving me some thumbs up.
Guys, gonna make you laugh now. Ready?
Can you hear that?
Yeah. Play it again.
Okay, you don't have a lot of time, but just watch yourself in the mirror. And I don't know if there is anyone who's trying very, very hard not to smile right now, but just ask yourself, you know, that is, and maybe you have a neighbor as well, and people are grinning, you know, from the other part of the office. What's wrong with him? Yeah, I'm on a presentation with the British Chamber of Commerce. Energy is infectious, isn't it? It really is. You know, just ask yourself, do you know people who bring energy when they come into a room? Right? And do you know people who bring energy when they leave the room? Right? So the question is not, when we're talking about energy, the energy is always there. At any moment in time, there is energy in people and in the space. The question for us as leaders is, do we open the floodgates, or when we arrive, do we close the floodgates? That's really the job. It's not our job of injecting energy. Our own presence brings it. And you think about right now, this presentation and me being with you right now, you are both particle and wave, right? So yes, you are particle. You're sitting where you're sitting, and I'm sitting in my little office here. So physically I'm here. And at the same time, right here and right now, I am energy in you, right? You can feel me. There is no way of not feeling me right now. and you are energy in me. You know, I can see some of you, I can see Keith, I can see others, and you are in my consciousness as well. You're in my awareness. So for me, when we look at energy, that's really at the essence. The question is, fine, does it matter? Does it matter in business? And I think the question I just wanted to keep this short. The question I just like to ask ourselves for a moment is, and you might want to put this in the chat actually. Here's what I'd love you to do. Just for a moment, put this in the chat. I'd like you to just think about moments in the last week or so, right? When your energy was relatively high and positive, and you were in meetings and Zoom meetings and conversation. What do you notice and what happens when your energy is relatively high and positive? Just don't think about it. Just immediately, you know, when you're doing work, when you're talking with others, what do you notice? Let's see what's coming up. Your energy is relatively high. What do you notice? Optimism, you feel in flow. Success, yeah. That's nice and sweet and short. Yeah. What else do you notice when you're working with people? They respond more positively. Guys, I have a big challenge and people say, well, tell me about it. You energize. There's creativity. Do we need it or not? Some people smile. Indeed. What else do you notice? There's a positive upward spiral. There's efficiency. Somehow we're more effective and efficient. You know, we get things done in half an hour rather than 2 hours. It brightens faces. What else do you notice? When you have decisions to take, real work to be done, but the energy is high. Just engagement, indeed. And just because we don't have so much time, pause it there and also ask you, you know, do you ever have low energy, low negative energy? By the way, was anybody on this call ever angry in their lives? Just make yourselves known, please. I have a dear friend who said, you know, there's an angry 3-year-old in every senior manager. And I think he's right. So think about moments when your energy is not so high and positive. How does that impact, without saying the opposite, right? How does it impact what you're doing when you're in meetings? What's the impact? Just put it out there. Paralyzing, like, right? Unmotivated, indeed. Negativity, you know, really, is that really the most important thing to talk about right now? Right? It's draining. Guys, I have to go to another meeting. All right. Boredom, etc. So just notice that. And that's why some people like Tony Schwartz, for example, a man who I largely admire, said managing and being mindful of our energy is significantly more important than managing our time, because the frequency we bring changes the performance and the quality of our work. And we all know that. The question is, what do I do with it? And I think there are fundamental 2 things that can help us to manage our energy. And for the brevity of it, I'll keep it here. The first thing is you can only change what you are aware of, right? If I'm not aware of something, I can't do anything about it. So it all starts with awareness. Just notice the breathing, you know, 50 minutes ago. As soon as I become aware of it, I can do something about it. If I'm unaware that I'm actually breathing, there's nothing I can do about it. So here's the good news. How many of you would agree that your energy changes frequently during the day? Is that the case? Yeah. So the way I look at it, if you just think about, you know, the 2 types of energy that you just described, is that it's the frequency that changes. And just think about it. The good news is you have a built-in thermometer, if you like, of your energy in any moment in time, because what energy really is, it is an emotion. It is energy in motion. Anything that moves, you can notice this. Energy is energy in motion. Because that's so, you can use your heart as really as a way of noticing your energy at any moment in time. And the way I look at it is this way. The words that you see on the right and the left are just my words. You might probably replace them with others, but just ask yourself, right? When you experience feelings, and many of you have mentioned them, of a sense of gratitude, happiness, joy, lighthearted, just notice how much perspective you have on the difficult questions in front of you. So stuff comes at you, but you're in that state. How do you deal with it? Or stuff comes at you and you're in a different state. There's a sense of insecurity, a sense of anger, guilt, resentment, whatever might that be, from very low negative frequency to very high negative frequencies. And the reason why I call it open and closed is because all the states on the right-hand side are more or less associated with an open state of heart. you can notice whether that thing is rather open or whether it is rather closed. The ones on the right are more associated with feelings of compassion and love, fundamentally, but never say love in business. And the ones on the other side are more associated with fear, but never say fear in business. I am concerned, right? But fundamentally, all you can do at any moment in time, you have this built-in indicator. What is my energy right now and what is its frequency? The good news is when you're in an open state of heart, go for it. Whatever comes as wisdom, intuition, insight, you can probably go with it. And when you're in a more closed state of heart, I would wait a little bit. Just ask yourself as you watch this, just look at it. When am I naturally a more effective leader, especially in crisis, especially when there is chaos and there is no obvious solution? And when am I typically a least effective leader? For those of you a parent, when am I naturally a more capable parent? You know, how do I deal with a tantrum when I'm on the right-hand side and on the left-hand side? For those of you with children, does anybody have children? Or has anybody ever been a child? So in that case, just ask yourself, you know, has it ever happened that, you know, that your children draw onto the food, right? When I'm in an open state of heart and said, hey, darling, she's an artist, right? And when I'm in a closed state of heart, said, did you teach her that? It's the same life event, but seen through a different state of heart. So it is absolutely vital. What would happen if more people in your organization spent more time in an open state of heart more often? So the first thing you can do is awareness. The second one, once you're aware, you can feed your 4 sources of energy. And I'll just quickly go through them. And then I'd actually like you to have a conversation with a couple of colleagues to simply notice what were sources of energy that I've tapped into deliberately in the last 3 to 4 to 5 weeks. Which were some that I might have neglected and why? And as a source of wisdom, which are the ones that I rely on the most? So there are 4 sources of energy. The first one is the body. Just think about it in terms of COVID. This vehicle here, this thing needs stuff. It needs nutrition, exercise, movement. And just think about when we had a shutdown. People were moving less. What did it do to us? Right, and as soon as we can, do we have movement? Do we move these things? When was my last walking meeting? Or am I sitting on this? Do I putting my vehicle on this chair for the entire day? This thing does need breaks, typically after 90 minutes. That's why most Hollywood movies are 90 minutes. How long are our meetings? 90 minutes, 2 hours, 2.5 meetings? When do we have breaks? Do we think that's just nice to have, or do we take it seriously? Sleep. How good is my sleep? Lots of signs are breathing. This thing needs oxygen and it needs breathing for many, many years. Our process and policies, do they actually help people to be in a better state, or do they drain energy from them? And action. People get energy from doing things together. Not only, come on, let's take a decision now and then let's see. Action creates energy. So that's the body. Secondly, our heart, whether we like it or not. This thing needs human connection. When has it ever become more apparent that we are a connected bunch of people? We need it. We need it light, we need it deep, but we need human connection. We even need touch, we need handshake, we need this. People need to feel heard. The question is not, now I'm listening, fine. Do I feel heard? It is an enormous source of energy. They need to feel appreciated and supported. That's the highest form of love you get in an organization. Speaking truth is, in my experience, a profound transformer of energy. You know what? I don't know how to do this. I'm feeling overwhelmed. That can transform a team if it's absolutely true. Psychological safety, lots of stuff. Now, does it feel safe? And what do I do as a leader in most difficult conversation that people feel, okay, let me say this, right? Forgiveness and grief. Just think about what you're actually grieving. Some of you might have needed to make people redundant. People left the team. The plans you had 6 months ago are gone. Maybe you want to double size, doesn't work anymore. So what are you grieving that you need to let behind? Because if you don't, you're stuck to it. The mind, this thing here, it needs stillness. It needs curious things. It needs learning, try new things, but it also does need stillness. Otherwise, it can't really work properly. And it needs to learn things, and it needs focused, uninterrupted time. The question is not how much do I get done? The question is, what is the shortest amount of uninterrupted time that I need to get this done? That's when I actually get into the zone. And presence. You might not do anything in a meeting, but bring all your presence to that moment. It can change the quality of a meeting. And last but not least, soul, or call it something different if you believe you don't have one. But people are looking for meaning, because I shouldn't say this on the call, but we're all going to die. Oh God, I shouldn't have said this. But in case you didn't know, it is going to happen. And most people before that would like to do something that is a little bit bigger than themselves. And most people need, what is our intention here? What's the bigger goal? If the shared purpose is small or not clear, people either do very little or too much because they don't know what to do. And we need nature. So these are 4 sources of energy. But they're also a little bit more than sources. They are also access to our wisdom. And especially in COVID, we don't have that clarity. Let's do ABC and then everything. We might not know. Things that we know might change tomorrow. So how do I do a strategy for 3 or 4 months when I know, well, that's the best guess I have so far? Here's just a point of view. I think COVID is inviting us to lead more wholly and to bring all of our wisdom into the room. Yes, we need thinking. If I want to access my thinking, the question is, does that make sense? What are the pros? What are the cons? That's linear thinking, super important. Do we have enough money to actually do this? You can do this in an Excel sheet. But many questions in business, you can't answer them only with thinking. You need to add the heart. And that's the deeper, does this feel right? What does this thing say here? There is a lot of intelligence embedded in all these cells. How does that feel? Does this thing go out? Does it open or does it close? So you can use your state of heart for decision making. And you can ask in high instance, is it inspiring? Does this actually inspire me? And then you can ignore the answers to that, or you can go with it. But also doing and being. You can ask, what's under control and influence right now? What might be the smallest possible step we can take in this moment? Or what would be a bold decision? And how can I embody that? So with all that in mind, here's what I'd like you to do. And we're bang on time. Yay! I'd love you to go into little groups. And I'll say this up front, there is no right answer. I think who was it? Robert Koch, he got a little bit more famous than he wanted to these last months and weeks. He had this wonderful thought saying some questions are too good to be spoiled with an answer. So this is not about finding an answer, but just exploring. So in your groups, and we'll paste that into the chat group as well, I'd like to think about, in the past 3 to 4 weeks or so, what were some sources of energy? What gave me life in spite of all of it? What surprised me, I had no idea this is giving me so much energy. And how did I take decisions? What did I most rely on? Intuition, heart, thought, action? Gateways. So where do I feel stuck? And what energy sources might I have neglected somehow? It's not good or bad. Just become aware of it, because with awareness comes choice. And movement. So what do you have most energy for now? I mean, today, in the remaining 8 hours. And if there's any more time, and just otherwise just linger with this, if I ask my team the same question, what would they say? And what am I discovering right now? So let me pause there. It's 11:35, and we're going to get you into breakout rooms for 10 minutes. So you really have a bit of time to connect, say who you are, and then just reflect. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in 10 minutes.
Well, what can I say? Thank you so much, Boris. We've really enjoyed this. I have, and I'm sure everybody else has. I speak for them all. I can sense their energy. At the start of this, I must be honest, Chief Energy Officer, I wasn't quite sure what that meant. But on the back of your book, which again, I'm going to plug for you, you say that human energy goes straight to the bottom line. And I now get that, and I now understand how it does. Thanks to everybody who's participated today. We've got plenty more going on in the British Chamber. I think Andy is just going to say a few words from the committee, if I'm right. But again, Boris, thank you for your time, and everybody, thank you very much for joining us. Andrew.
Thank you very much, Keith. Yes, not too much to say. And apart from a big thank you to Boris, once again, really enjoyed that. And yeah, really some interesting points to take away and hopefully use for everyone. that's joined us today. So thank you very much for joining us. Just a quick note on the rest of the week. So we have 3 more great speakers for the rest of this week. So please do join us. We have Marcus Muller tomorrow, slightly different time. It's at 2:30. So please do join us for another interactive forum. And we have Thursday and Friday with some great speakers, and hopefully with I know Minister Paulette Leonard is very busy at the moment, but she is joining us on Thursday. So really looking forward to the rest of the week. Thank you again to our sponsors, Altadomus and Lux Stakes. And thank you all for joining us today. Hope you've got the energy to have a wonderful day, and look forward to seeing you at the next event. Thanks very much.